I'm Neil Dubord, Chief of the Delta Police Department. This week on our show,
I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So now I'm in the middle of a complaint, not sure if I'm going to have a job, and I have an autoimmune deficiency disease, and I've just lost my career aspirations of being a SWAT operator, and I'm going back to the road.
Bend, don't break. This is a Delta Police podcast.
Hear more about how police officers strengthen their resiliency through the power of story.
Good afternoon. How are you, Aaron?
I'm very well, Chief. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you. Good. Hey, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh my goodness, this is actually terrible. I shouldn't even admit to this. I usually have yogurt and a little bit of granola. I think I actually had to skip breakfast this morning because I think my son finished all the yogurt off last night, and I didn't have time to pack anything else. So I went breakfastless.
But what happened to the weight room this morning? Seems to me you went back to sleep.
I will say this. I did not see you there Monday morning at 5:30 when I was in there grinding out on the bike.
Where was I Monday?
I don't know. You weren't in the
gym. Anyways, well, I did miss you, and then you came in late and you said you had to sleep in. You said the alarm went off and you had to sleep in today. So
I did. Well, I did say that.
Aaron, I wanted to be able to sort of get together with you and be able to have a conversation in relation to resiliency and challenges and how you have overcome some significant challenges. And I think you've got a really important story that people need to understand and hear, and then some great lessons that we can take away in how we can apply them to our lives and hopefully relieve some of the pressure, the stresses, and the individual challenges we face within our daily lives. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Wow. High expectations of me.
And I know you'll deliver.
So my story starts, when does it start? There's many layers to it. But I guess really kicked off in about 2011 when I was the subject of a complaint for an excessive use of force complaint with my partner and I. And so we got a complaint. It was at the end of 2011, I believe. And during the process, I almost hate saying that word. The process was always kind of like the forbidden word with me because it just always came about the process. And it just killed me every time anybody said, just be patient, let the process run its course. And for me, the process was about 3 years long. And a lot of stuff happened over those 3 years. And so I guess, how did it start? The complaint was, I was served with my Form 1 complaint through the PSS section, which initiated the invest. During the investigation, it went from a excessive use of force complaint to several other things, which included a deceit allegation. And I remember, well, let me back it up. There was some new stuff coming down the pipe with as far as complaints. So if police officers were subject to complaints and if they were substantiated, they would be the subject of McNeely disclosure. And how that worked was basically it went on your record for a certain amount of time based on if it was a direction of training, written reprimand, verbal reprimand, or however it was concluded. You got a certain McNeely over a certain period of time, 2 years, 3 years. And what that did is basically, if it was my understanding at the time was that I'll say if I got a speeding ticket and for speeding, and now all of a sudden I'm a traffic officer issuing or serving traffic tickets, that might be an issue when I go to court and try to give traffic evidence because now I've been the subject of a speeding ticket. And so when the deceit allegation came to attrition, that was kind of the unknown at the time because it was very new. And I remember it was probably it was either early January or late December. And I was at the soccer field. My daughter had a school game and I had my 3-year-old son at the time. He was 2 or 3. And we were kicking around in the field. And my daughter was playing in the field next to us, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. It's pretty average day, and I was on, I believe, my second or third day off, and I got a phone call from my association rep, and he basically says, "Hey, Aaron, I gotta tell you before anybody else lets you know, or you hear it through the grapevine or through the rumors, because you know how police like to start rumors or tell stories." And he told me right there and then, with my 2-year-old son, that I was being investigated for deceit. And I just remember standing there, and this like cold feeling just came over my body. And I can't remember if I actually did throw up. I know I felt like throwing up. But I just remember standing there looking at my kid, and the first thing that went through my mind is, holy shit, I'm not going to be a cop anymore. That's it. I'm done. And so it was interesting. Kind of came out of that as the initial was just the shock. And then I called a friend about it, and he had been notified as well. And the reason they phoned me is because we had different shifts, so they had told him on shift they wanted to get to me before it got circulated around that we were both being served with this allegation. Anyway, so we moving forward with the process. The investigation continued. We went through the process, and the excessive use of force. So the allegations were unsubstantiated. And so it was good. It was about nine months, and everything ceased, and we were cleared of all wrongdoings. And so during that time, it was quite stressful. And the other thing, I was part of. Well, let me tell you about my career. At that time, I was patrol, and I was part of the Municipal Integrated Emergency Response Team as a part-time member. I'd been there for close to 3 years, and I was coming up on a full-time position, and this was my aspirations to be a ERT, a SWAT operator. And I've been gearing my career towards this, and this is the direction that I wanted to go. And it was going that way. And I got onto the January rolled around, a full-time spot opened up, and I was now on ERT. The investigation was in full swing for the complaint. During that time, the stress of the complaint, and then with Myart, which was integrated with several other agencies in the Lower Mainland, they're through politics or whatever the reason, I still don't know the reason fully. The team got disbanded, and I was now not an ERT or SWAT operator. And my aspirations for policing and everything that I was striving for had just been basically ripped out from underneath me, and I was still in the middle of this investigation. So there's a couple things that were kind of weighing on me. So once the complaint was unsubstantiated at our department level, it went to the OPCC, which is the Office of the Police Complaint Commission, and so they were involved now at this point, and they weren't happy with the decision, and so they had the ability to push this further, and it went to what's called a 117 hearing, and so now it becomes more of a public interest, and it becomes more of a public matter. It's now becomes part of the news, and we were starting to get a little bit of press on it. While this is happening, the stress is starting to come back. Obviously, it's back, and is actually even higher, and there's more stress involved, and I start getting sick. And the only way I can describe it is there's about a 3-week period at the end of December. So I believe it's about end of December, 2012, I believe. I start feeling like getting lethargic. I lost about 20 pounds in just shy of 3 weeks. My friends are, my partners, my shift mates are having a laugh about it. They actually had their own theories on why I was losing all the weight. And anyway, it turns out I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So now I'm in the middle of a complaint, not sure if I'm going to have a job, and I have an autoimmune deficiency disease, and I've just lost my career aspirations of being a SWAT operator, and I'm going back to the road. So there's a few things playing here. And while this is all going on, my father, who at the time was, we believe was, he's an alcoholic. I guess once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. And he had been a recovering alcoholic for years. And back in the early 90s, he almost succumbed to his alcoholism, and he was able to bounce back and get healthy to a certain point. And unbeknownst to the family, he was actually back drinking. And in about near the beginning, I believe it was 2013, he starts to get sick. Anyway, so now I've got another layer added on here. And while all this is going on, the only thing I'm concerned about is my career. And so I remember specifically getting pulled in on an unrelated file, and there was a deputy chief inspector and my staff at the time, and they sat me down, and I was kind of like, what's going on? And they started to talk to me about the complaint. And I remember sitting there, and they talked about McNeely and saying, you know, Aaron, this is kind of an uncharted territory for us. And this deceit allegation is very concerning for us, and we're not sure what we're going to do with you. And all I heard was, you're fired. And I remember sitting there, and then everything kind of went silent. You always hear about when something traumatic's going, you almost hear like that buzzing, that sound in your ears. And I just remember sitting there, and everything kind of went silent, and I became very emotional. There were some other issues they had with me, and I don't even think I heard them. And I just remember thinking, I have a high school education, a couple years of college, limited college, and I have a $100,000 a year job, and they're going to be firing me here. What am I going to do? What can I possibly do with a high school education? And it was about 10 minutes. They're still telling me stuff, and how disappointed they are and unsure, and as a cop, ERT, SWAT operator, type A personality, full of bravado. I just remember like breaking down and I started crying. I thought that was it. I'm done. And I kind of remember sitting there, and the deputy at the time he left. It's kind of like he had said his piece, and then he left, and then the inspector again had some stuff to say to me on some indeficiencies that he felt that I had as a police officer. And to be honest with you, I couldn't even hear him. I was just so focused on what they had just told me about the unsurety and the deceit allegation. And anyway, I leave. They send me home, and I just remember sitting at home, and I've got diabetes, and I've got Myard is gone. I'm back in patrol. My father is quite sick, and I just felt sorry for myself. I just remember sitting there going, I just felt sorry for myself. And the only thing again I was concerned about was my career. And it was shortly after that. My father passed away. He actually died in the family home. It's kind of a funny story, actually. It's funny as a father, as your father passing away. I remember. So my mom, she's an unbelievable lady. She spent. My father is a retired police officer as well. He was a cop, and he retired. He had an early retirement due to injuries. And so he was on a lot of painkillers and became addicted to painkillers and alcohol. And so my mom's through thick and thin, she was a good wife, and she stayed with my dad till the bitter end. And my old man was a great man in many ways. And I remember my cousin was getting married in Mexico, and so my dad said, you should probably go. You should go. And so she goes for this week holiday to whatever, the west coast of Mexico. And at the time, my parents actually lived in the same house as my sister and brother-in-law. And my dad passed away about 4 days into my mom's vacation. So my sister finds my father dead in his chair. And so she phones me upset. So we come in, we take care of it. We kind of expected it was coming anyway. And so now it's like the decision is, do we phone mom and completely ruin her holiday, or do we just let her ride it out and then she'll come home? And then so it was a fine line. We weren't sure if she'd be pissed off that we didn't let her know that he had passed away, or would she be pissed off that we ruined her holiday. So we let her finish her holiday, and then so I remember she came in, and when she flew home, she flew to Vancouver, and then I picked her up at her sister's place in Richmond, and she knew right away that because I was there picking her up that my father had passed away. And so the your father passing away, you would think would be a very catastrophic incident in your life, and it just did not compare to this complaint and the stress that I felt on my job. And it's funny, I reflect, I talk about this stuff, and I've been thinking about, we talked about this podcast and sharing my story, and I go through the story and the stuff that happened through that 24 months, and diabetes, type 1 diabetes, there's so much worse out there, but it's definitely a life-changing disease. Like, you change your diet, you're giving yourself needles 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 times a day. It has a very it affects your life. Your father passing away, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I almost started feeling guilty that I was so focused on my career, and that I almost put everything else, my family, my health, and everything on the back burner just to focus on my career and just survive that complaint, and just prayed that I'd get out the other side.
How are you feeling about your job then?
When I started as a cop, this is all I wanted to do. I loved being a cop. I loved being a police officer. I just loved being out there, and I thought making a difference. And when I went through the complaint, and at the time, once it went into the kind of the deceit territory of the complaint, and I just felt the support was gone, and I hated coming to work. I dreaded it. Yeah.
So tell me about the support. What did you mean by you felt the support was gone?
I guess I just felt like I was being I felt like I was guilty until I proved myself innocent. This is really the only way to look at it. And I'm a constable now. I was a constable then. 5 years on the job. Like, I'm so fresh. I mean, I'm still 12 years. I'm still learning every day. I'm not, at that management level. Like, I don't know what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I don't understand, like, what they have to deal with as far as like risk management. And so for me, it just felt like I just wanted them to support me. Like, I'm your employee. I thought I was doing a good job for you. I do everything for you in the community, and this is the way I'm being treated. Is okay, you know what, let's let this run its course, but till it runs its course, we don't really are going to have any association with you. You're going to be out here and on an island till it gets sorted out, and if you're clear, you come back, no problem. If you're not cleared, then I don't know, we're not sure where we're going to go.
So when you say that management, you didn't feel the support of management, what could they have done to be able to make you feel supported? Knowing that they can't come out and say, you're innocent, or that there's nothing, that this charge won't be substantiated or allegation won't be substantiated, knowing that they can't say that, what could have helped?
That is a good question.
Let me lead in with this a little bit. And I think in management, we often deal with sort of professional standards issues, PSS issues, on such a frequent basis that it's like an officer going to a theft from auto. You begin to lose touch with the impact it has on the person that it's happened to. So for us, there's a lesson here, I think, that you're talking about, and how important it is for our officers when they are being investigated, and how important it is for us to realize that this may be the only time in their career, to the job they've always wanted to do, that they will be significantly impacted by an investigation which assumes, like you said, that you're guilty until proven innocent. So we have to stop to be able to think about how the impact will land on the person.
Yes. And it's funny because I'm thinking the biggest thing here is you go through the list of the stuff that I'm dealing with at the time, and the biggest impact on my life is your judge of character, the negative judge of your, like, they have this negative, they think negatively as your judge, like you're judging your character, and it's like, I'm doing my best job for you. Like, I'm giving you a better part of my life. Like, you were here at the time with Meyer and patrol. I worked a 4-on, 4-off. I was here 4 days on and 4 days off. I never call in sick. I would never call sick. On my 2 days off, I'd come in and do ERT, SWAT, whatever missions. So I'm here 6 out of my 8-day rotation. So all I think is, in my mind, I'm thinking, I am giving you 6 best days of my, like, I'm just constantly give
for the organization.
I'm bleeding for the organization. And this is what I get back, is that you are judging my character based on a complaint, whether, at the time obviously wasn't unsubstantiated. And for me, it was hard for me to get past that. Mm-hmm. And I put it this way, it's just, it's just easier to take that victim mentality and just I became the victim is basically what it boils down to. And I had a lot of negativity around me. And that's not I got an unbelievable family. And I think it took my wife, who's an amazing person, very positive. She's an amazing person. She's big into her quotes. She's always throwing quotes out. And at the time I was just like, good God, like, why do you continually these quotes? She would like just text them to me. I'd be like, and then some of them started to make sense. You start to actually read them and dissect them, and I'm like, that actually kind of makes sense. And I think once I lost that, got rid of that, or got past that victim mentality, and then started to take a really hard look at myself, because I wasn't going to change the way that management looked at me, or this person looked at me, or the press, or the remarks at the bottom of the stories that were being put out now, because they weren't good. They weren't good remarks. And
that's hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. And so you got to get past that, and all these people judging you based on one person's account of the story. And so for me, it was really tough. And then once I got past that victim mentality and started being more accountable, to myself, really, and owning up to maybe some little thing, even like little things. I was, one of my supervisors would say, yeah, you really need to work on that. And I'd be like, who is this guy? Like, why are you telling me this? Everyone is against me, and woe is me, and the world's against me. And I think once I got past that, and started changing the way I looked at it, and working on little things here. And I mean, they weren't always right, though. Some of the stuff I was doing fine. It was.
So let's talk about you've obviously had your career hopes and aspirations smashed.
Yep.
You have gone through, or are going through, a significant professional standards complaint, which we know brings inherent stress,
yep,
and the unknown and lack of control, and you don't feel like you have any any ability to be able to influence the situation. You have your father that passes away in a horrible situation, and then you have yourself who's suffering from a significant medical issue that you're trying to overcome, and with that comes all kinds of ups and downs and feelings of energy and that you bring to your work. So those are all the things going on, and you say that it took finally recognizing a victim mentality before you turned the corner. But how did you recognize that it was a victim mentality? Because you're right, that's what it is. I mean, you're right on the money. The minute we stop feeling sorry for ourselves and we make the decision that we are going to not allow this to destroy us, and we're going to do whatever we can to control ourselves.
I think there's no one specific thing that, I mean, I can't think of it. I'm sure there is, but I can tell you, it's something over time my wife is instilled, and she always said, what you think about, you bring about. So you can control yourself, and if you think about it, then things will start to happen. So if you have that kind of that positive attitude moving forward, it's almost like you get to the rock bottom. Well, there's really nowhere to go but up, and you start making that climb and start moving up and going down that path of, you have your little ebbs and flows and some I don't just take a little diversion and feel sorry for yourself or whatever, however that looks, but you always try to get back online and just keep that positive road moving forward.
Aaron, I got to stop you there. And
okay.
The reason I am is that I think you said something really important. And what we're trying to do in this podcast, and really this podcast is in great part because of your idea to be able to bring it forward and how we can share stories to be able to assist people, is how do we stop people from getting to the rock bottom? That's what we want to do. We really want to stop them from going down that slippery slope that you went down. And before they hit the rock bottom, how do we help them recognize what's going on so they can actually change it?
I personally, I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. And I think I would like to, sometimes you need to hit that bottom to know that you're at the bottom to come up. And I understand where you're coming from, like to try to prevent people from getting down there or hitting that bottom. I don't know if that's it's almost like when you lose, you're learning. So it's almost like you don't really learn unless you lose. I tell my kids this when playing sports. You're gonna win, but you're never really getting better until you actually lose. You have to lose to see where you're lacking your skills or what you need to work on. And it's kind of like that. It's kind of like life. You kind of gotta like have some adversity, deal with some crap in your life to actually start learning about yourself mostly, and to be able to make that churn and start heading down that right path.
Let me go at this at a different angle. Let me go at it from this angle, is that you mentioned, and you're not the first person that mentioned the strong support you had of your wife.
Yeah.
Tell me if anyone else could have told you the truth and you would have listened. Meaning that you heard from your supervisors, you got to do this better, and you said, who the hell are they telling me I need to do better? But who did you listen to there? Did you listen to anyone? Did you listen to your wife?
You know what? I think there is a point there that I wouldn't have listened to anyone. I think you become so blinded, and for me it was you're just so angry. You're just angry. You're angry at the way you're being treated, the way you're being perceived, portrayed. Maybe my mom, but then moms don't tell you their stuff. They always sugarcoat everything. That's why we like her. Yeah. I think you kind of got to get through a stage before you'll actually really start listening. You got to kind of get through that stage, and then yeah, I think hearing it from your wife, someone close to brother or sister. I'm lucky. I've got it's not just my wife. I've got an unbelievable my sister, my sister-in-law. I've got some friends in the brothers and sisters in the department. Friends outside, guys I play soccer with, like just awesome people around me, and I think that's really important. And so one of the really big things that I really started to notice a really big change is when I started to it takes a lot of energy to be negative. I don't know if you know that, but it takes a lot of energy to be negative. And I was a real negative person. And then when you see that negativity to starts to flow onto like your kids, and you start to seeing it come back. It's kind of like my wife always says, you can't yell at your son because he's going to start yelling. And then all of a sudden you notice, oh man, so I start yelling at him for something that I want him to do, and then he starts yelling at him back. So they start picking it up, those traits, and the negativity is just like that. So, and all of a sudden you start seeing some negativity coming from people that aren't negative. You're kind of like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And that was, I don't have a specific example, but you can see it. You can see people see the negativity in you. Maybe they don't want to be around you. You have negative people around you. I think once you start to surround yourself with positive people, I really notice a big change.
So the first thing you said is obviously getting to the point where you no longer take the victim mentality.
No.
The second thing I think you said is that finding people that will support you in the work that you're doing, and whether that be friends or family or relatives. The third thing would be around surrounding yourself with people that have like minds.
Absolutely.
And hopefully that's the positive way.
Absolutely. I think that is a huge key component. Surround yourself with good people.
What else did you
do? It's funny. I've always been pretty involved in fitness, with ERT. I mean, that's one of the key components. I still do it. I still find, like, with stress, one of the big stressors when I start to stress is the worst. Like, it does so many negative things to your body, and I really believe that was one of the big reasons why I got diabetes. And just let me explain on that is, so my sister is a type 1 diabetic. She was diagnosed when she was 8 years old. So it's a juvenile disease, but it's not hereditary, but it's genetic. So it can sit in your system. So there's something major in your life will happen, and they'll say is one of the reasons why it'll kind of activate. That's my understanding. I've talked to a few specialists, and that's their explanation they've given me. When I asked why now? Why the hell am I getting type 1 diabetes as a fairly fit? I eat well. I'm not an excessive drinker. How am I getting type 1 diabetes? And I think one of the doctors like, well, Aaron, you're thinking type 2. That's the not so fit, terrible eater. Type 1 is a different disease. And so when I was going through all the stuff, the stress. And there was so much stress, and I think that's part of the reason why it got activated. So kind of limiting that stress as best as you can, and managing stress is a huge component. And for me, one of the things that I do to manage my stress is I spend a lot of time on my bike. So little downtime, maybe an hour, throw the headphones on, and get your heart rate up and yeah, that seems to work for me. It's a little bit of a decompression, and I feel so much better.
So it's the management of stress, and that stress in being able to manage it. It's through fitness, it's through yoga, it's through mindfulness, it's through all those methods that people talk about. But the big issue there is managing the stress.
Absolutely. That's funny you say yoga, because my wife I'm not the flexible guy. My wife's like, she's trying to get me to commit to once a week. Just come on, do 1 week of yoga, 1 day a week, see how you feel. So I'm going to do it. I should probably do it one day, but I haven't committed yet.
You're working on it.
No, I'm working on it. We're in progress. We're in progress.
Is there anything else that you can bring to light that I think would help people in sort of seeing the challenges they face and what they might be able to overcome?
Honestly, Chief, when we talked about this, where this project kind of stemmed from, and so I've spent some time going through my story, talking about it, talking with my wife, just kind of getting my stories, getting my timings, and it's interesting even just talking about it, how healing that can be, actually just getting it out there and talking about it. I think it's even that is very advantageous.
Absolutely. It reduces the stigma. It allows you to be able to see others that share similar concerns as well.
Absolutely.
And do you look at people differently now as you try to sort of carry on that positive environment within the workplace?
I try to. And I
you say that while you're smiling.
Yeah. So it's funny because this job, I mean, and I don't want to make excuses because we can only control ourselves, right? And so this job obviously just breeds a lot of skepticism and trust issues and so you kind of got to navigate that. And I think as years go on, as the longer you're on the job, you can either go two ways: become really, really jaded, and nobody wants to be around you, or there's you can go the other way. And I'm trying. I try to be a positive influence. I try to look at the positive side. I'm not gonna lie to you. Obviously, sometimes you're just gotta be, you take a negative outlook on some stuff, and it is what it is. And it's human nature.
You still look at management that way. What are those guys thinking?
No. And it's funny in my career. We can go back to my career, and so my career has taken a huge 180, where I'm put into our training section, which to me is, I think, probably one of the most important sections in the agency, just because we have so much influence on junior members, senior members, the 10, 15-year members and management. And we make a lot of decisions and shape the way that a department goes. And so that was a real telltale sign for me that when I got that opportunity, or I'm having that opportunity to have that effect on the agency or the department, that management is kind of are looking at me in a new light or giving me an opportunity. I don't know if they're looking at me in a new light, but at least I'm getting the opportunities. So it's good. It's a good thing. And life is good. Like I got a lot of good things going on right now.
Okay. 2 final questions.
Sure.
First one, what do you hope to come from these podcasts?
I hope we can give some tools to people. I don't want to say police officers. I don't want to say people. Just people that are going through some struggles. There's going to be some analogies coming up on some really great analogies. I'll just keep it simple because I'm a simple man. I just want to share my story. This was really hard for me, and I think, like I say, type A personality. I grew up in a good household, but not a household where you talked a lot about your feelings and that kind of stuff. And so for me to be able to do this is a huge step. And I like to throw it out there. So, other people maybe in the same situation as me is maybe just get out there and talk to someone and just give them the tools to help them tell their story and start that healing process.
Great. Now, you've come up with the name Bend Don't Break. I think that's a terrific name. I think that'll certainly be something that people can relate to. And final question here. You're going into Dairy Queen. What are you eating?
Oh, well, I am a type 1 diabetic, sir. So
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
No.
So I should
Sugar's
be,
not your friend.
But I'll tell you right now, I was there 2 weeks ago and I had a Score Blizzard.
Well done.
Yeah.
There's 2 thumbs up here in the studio.
Blizzard.
That's right. 2 thumbs up. Great. Thanks for joining us, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
These productions never come without a lot of work from everyone involved. A big shout out and thank you to Constable Aaron Hill, Melissa Granum, and Nikki Hewitt for producing and recording, and of course post-production done by Podfly. Next week on Bend Don't Break,
he stood up, started walking in circles, and then turned his attention towards my team and walked directly at us. He was walking at us, holding the gun in the air, and I remember I'm staring at him through my sight and just watching him, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Jordan, if he points the gun at us, you're going to have to shoot him. And I'm watching him, and he lowers the gun, and now he's pointing the gun right at us. He's pointing the gun at me and my friends, and I fired. I shot him.
For more episodes, you can find us on all major podcasting platforms like iTunes and Google Play. And don't forget to connect with the Delta Police Department on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Once again, thanks for tuning in.